Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fisdap Tips and Tricks webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that due to the volume of attendees, all lines have been muted. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them through the chat, and we'll save some time to address them at the end of the webinar. Today's tips and tricks topic is testing opportunities. Our hosts are Ben Tape, a solutions consultant with Fisdap, and Christy Morley, the assessment development manager with Fisdap. So without further delay, I'll pass it off to you, Christy.
Hi everyone, this is Christy. Welcome to the webinar. So since this is our first Fisdap testing webinar in this series, we're going to start from the very beginning. So today we'll be covering the exam development process from start to finish to give you all a better idea of what goes into the creation of Fisdap exams. We really rely heavily on the Fisdap community, and we involve the Fisdap community in all steps of exam creation. Any EMT, AEMT, or paramedic educator is welcome to author and submit questions for us. We also sometimes do higher level exams like PHTLS or TECC. So when we have those exam projects going on, we'll send out a notice and calling for subject matter experts in those fields. So the first step of exam creation is the blueprinting process. We develop our blueprints for our exams based on national registry requirements, as well as the frequency and criticality of patient encounters, as ranked by subject matter experts, MDs, and the Fisdap community. After the exams are blueprinted, we either pull questions from our extensive item bank or we send item writing assignments to our trusted contributors to make sure that all areas of the exam are covered and that students are truly prepared to succeed in the field after passing the appropriate level of Fisdap exam. If you'd like to contribute items to our test bank, you can easily do so through the Fisdap site. Feel free to reach out to testing@fisdap.net if you have any questions about how to get started, and we can get you all set up. So after we have each of our exams blueprinted and we define the quotas for each objective and each subtopic within the exams, we then begin the process of item validation. So we do this through our Fisdap review sessions. So we typically host about 2 to 3 Fisdap review sessions per week. Each item review session is an hour-long meeting hosted by one of our awesome facilitators and attended by a minimum of 3 subject matter experts. We also set the maximum at 6, just because when there's too many cooks in the kitchen, there's too much conversation and talking going on to get the work done. So during these sessions, the subject matter experts will discuss the validity and credibility of each question and the 4 distractors that go along with it. So that would be the A, B, C, and D answer choices. So we make sure that each of the 4 options are plausible while ensuring that the correct answer listed is the most correct or best option in each case. The review sessions are usually quite lively and fun to attend. They often spark discussions and debate. If you'd like to attend any of these sessions, you can find the available options listed on your homepage if you scroll down just a bit past your inbox. So what's showing on the screen here, the Fisdap testing review. And any session that has the people available, you can click and join easily. So if you choose to attend a session, you'll be credited with Fisdap reward points, which can be used to receive discounts on some of our products. So the webinars are not only fun and educational, but also beneficial for you to attend. We're always on the lookout for new review session attendees, so please don't hesitate to sign up. Even if you're new and you don't know much about it, our facilitators will explain the review process to you efficiently and patiently to ensure good collaboration and validation of the test questions. After we send all of the items through these review sessions and we have the appropriate number of questions validated for each exam, the items will go through further subject matter expert and then finally MD review before being published. Then the exams go into what we call pilot testing phase, which is essentially a field test of all the items. So we usually try to get about 400 students, or even more the better, to attempt the exam. And then after we have a large enough number of attempts to prove statistical significance, we send the results of our exam to our statisticians and psychometricians who conduct an analysis on the exam data. So they evaluate each item for difficulty level and discrimination, and they see how the top performers are performing versus the lower performers. And then using their analysis, we can determine which items are performing well or performing poorly, or if items are just really good or really bad. And then we can finalize the exam from there. And speaking of finalizing exams, I wanted to let you all know that the PRE5, which is the 5th version of our paramedic readiness exam, is now available. We just published it at the end of the year. So it covers all of the same topics as the PRE4, but with new and fresh material. So that's available now. And because we've just released this new version, we'll be retiring the PRE3 on July 1st of this year. So after that date, only the PRE4 and PRE5 will be available. And now I'll pass it off to Ben, who will be telling you how to access our exams.
Thanks, Christy. So yeah, I actually just pulled it up right here, but just to walk through that process again, I hovered over the Learning Center and clicked on Test Schedule. You can also access this by going to the Learning Center itself, and you'll see Schedule Secure Exam as the first option. And once you're in here, you'll see previously scheduled exams, but in this case, we would want to click on the New Test option. And once in here, we'll want to select which exam we're going to administer. In this case, if we want to try out the new PRE5, we would select that from the list here. And then you'd set up if you want your students to be able to see their own scores or not. If you say cannot, you as the instructor will still see their scores, but the students will not see it on their end. They would have to come to you and ask, and then you would be able to let them see it or not. But if you say can see their scores, then as soon as they complete the exam, they would have access to their overall scores as well as the learning prescription. Then there is a date range as well. So the like all of our exams, the PRE5 is going to have a, all of our secure exam, there is going to be a proctor password for that attempt, and that proctor password will change daily. So that's the reason why we have the date range, because if you're going to administer it over a couple of days, some students coming in today, some students coming in tomorrow, in lieu of you having to reschedule it every time, you can set up a range. So if we were going to have students coming in and up until through Saturday, we can set that there. Then the last step is to select which of your students can actually take the exam. With the PRE5, this is included with the Paramedic Comprehensive Exam product. So right now, if a student gets the Paramedic Comprehensive Exam product, or if they already have it, they will have 2 attempts at the PRE3, 2 attempts at the PRE4, and 2 attempts at the PRE5. So quite a few number of attempts at the moment. And so what you would just do is select which students are going to take the exam, and then hit save. Now, selecting the students to take the exam is actually not required for them to take it, but it is required for the scores to be visible. So the only thing that actually prevents a student from taking the exam is going to be the proctor password. If the proctor password is entered for them, then they can go in and they can take the exam. But if they're not linked to the scheduled exam attempt, the system doesn't know how to pull their scores, so they will not be able to, basically the score is there, sort of floating in the ether, but the system doesn't know how to pull it for that specific attempt. So if someone took it and they weren't scheduled for it, that's not a problem. You would just come back to the scheduled tests, and then we would click on the edit option. And then we could say, oh, you know what, Michael actually took it, but he wasn't selected, so we'll just select him now. And then once you save, the scores will be visible. So that step can be done before or after. If you are able to have all your students selected, that's better, just because they'll see their scores again right away. But sometimes I know that programs like to schedule the exams before the students have their accounts created. So in that case, you would schedule the exam for what days you're going to administer it, whether they can see their scores or not. And then once they're either taking or have taken the exam, you would go back in to the edit page and then select the students that have taken it. So once you're on the details page, when you hit save, you'll see the students that were selected. If for whatever reason they didn't have the product, but you selected them, there would be an asterisk here saying, hey, these students don't have the product. There'd even be a link to go and upgrade them so they could get it. But we will warn you ahead of time if they don't have it. I kind of breezed past it here, but I'll jump back really quickly. We do show how many attempts they have left for that exam here. So in this case, none of these students have taken the PRE5, so they all still have their 2 attempts ready to go. Then back to test schedule here. So the proctor passwords, as I mentioned, they change daily, and they are different for each exam. So the proctor password for the PRE5 for today is going to be different for the proctor password for the PRE3 for today, and different from the proctor password for the PRE4 for today. So while there are multiple different options there, again, the passwords will be specific. So if you're administering different exams on the same day, you'll need to make sure that you're scheduling each of those exams separately. And then, as you can see, the password tends to be two fairly innocuous words smushed together. So it's a situation where it should be easy to enter in. It's not going to be some crazy long hexadecimal thing, but it also is going to be very unlikely that anyone would be able to guess trip vowel or speech broom unless they have it. We do recommend, if possible, that the proctor be the one to enter the password for the students. If they fully submit the exam when they finish, then it shouldn't be an issue. There's a 24-hour lockout period when they complete in exams before they can take that same exam again. So if they do fully enter it, then they fully submit rather the exam, then even if they have the proctor password, they wouldn't be able to get into it again until the password is changed. But generally speaking, just to make sure that they're not sharing it around with anyone else who hasn't taken it or things like that, it's ideal to have the proctor be the only one to have the passwords in lieu of the students entering it for themselves. And then at the bottom here, there are also some helpful links. These are going to be slightly different depending on which exam you've scheduled, but in this case, you've got student instructions. This is a handy document that's going to just show students exactly what they need to do to come in and take the exam. So tell them to log in, enter username and password, go to the take a test. So it's pretty self-explanatory how they get to the test. They click the take a test option on the quick links on their dashboard, or they can go to the Learning Center and they can see it from there. But just in case you want to remove any possibility that they don't know how to get to where they need to go, this is a good document to show what they need to do. And it's also handy if you, as the instructor, are not the one administering it, but you have a proctor doing it, say, at a testing center. It can be very handy to provide to them just so that the proctor can answer any questions if students are not sure how to get to the exam. And again, this does say that we make sure to click the submit all and finish, because if you don't, if the students just close out or if they just leave, then they will not be able to see their scores. The system doesn't know to calculate it until it's been fully submitted. Just accidentally closed out of that. Just one moment here. My apologies. Should have hit back instead of closing out that tab. So the other helpful links I can start talking about before we get into it is going to be the how to succeed on a Fisdap exam. So that document is also very helpful to give to your students because it gives them a sense of what they should be on the lookout for before they actually come and take the exam. So one of the major things that we point out in that is that the exams are written very similarly to how NREMT writes their exams, which is to say that there may be multiple correct answers, but there's going to be one best answer. So we really want to make sure that they are going to read all the answers before they make any selections to it, because we don't want them to see the first answer that could be right, but is not the most right. So again, sorry for that detour, but back to the helpful links, how to succeed on a Fisdap exam. So it's just going to walk them through what they should do, what you should suspect, what's the most likely cause, things like that, and just some test taking tips. And again, because this is actually, we write our questions in line with how NRMT does, this is not just a helpful document for taking our Fisdap exams, but it can also be very helpful for taking the NRMT and getting prepped for that. And then the last thing I wanted to point out in the helpful links is going to be the statistics document. This is going to be something that we create for every one of our exams, and it basically is going to show you how we came up with the statistics that we have. So things like how we came to our validity, what our PPV is, where the cut score is, and what the likelihood of passing the NRMT is once they take the exam, assuming that they pass our cut score. So this exam, we just have one cut score. Some of the other ones, like the PRE 3 and 4, we show things like the ANGOF and some others, but we tend to recommend the ANGOF cut score. So if you see multiple, look for the ANGOF. But in this case, again, coming back to the top, cut score is 72. And generally speaking, the cut scores for each exam, it'll be a little bit different, but generally speaking, we have them between 70 and 73% for what gets credit. And that's going to be available for each of the exams, including the unit exams as well. So each of those can have that specific information. And I'm not sure if this exam does. Some of them also have a recommended cut score for the breakdown as well. So, for example, you can see what the recommended cut score for airway specifically within the PRE. Yes, it does. Great, fantastic. So you can see in this instance, the overall cut score is 72, but the cut score for medical is 65. So you can get a real breakdown to see where the student is performing in each section. So they may have passed the overall cut score, but maybe they have only gotten a 70% in EMS ops. And so we want to make sure that they're very comfortable with everything, that they get that number up to 78 to make sure that they're hitting the actual specific information of each of the sections. So that is scheduling the exam. Once it is scheduled, or once the students have taken it, you'll be able to come back to the test schedule and click on scores, and it will present the scores for each of the students who have taken it. Obviously, in this instance, no one has taken it yet, so there's no results to pull, but this is where they would be located. You would then be able to see both the individual learning prescriptions for each student, but we also at the bottom of this page have what's called the group learning prescription, where it basically smushes all the learning prescriptions together and then tells you how each student, like how the class did basically overall. So if 100% of the students missed one of the questions, you can see what the topic area of that question was. So you can see if there are deficiencies in the class as a whole, or if it's really just spread out and depending on the person specific. So sometimes you can get really good information from that to see, oh, why did all the students miss questions on applying a BVM? Maybe there was an issue with the curriculum or something, where they didn't get enough practice on it. So it can really help you both with knowing the individual students, what they need to work on, but also the curriculum as a whole. The other pieces of the Learning Center I wanted to point out are some things that Christy touched on. So we talked about the scheduling a secure exam. Christy also mentioned that we sometimes with blueprinting take from our test bank. So we do have a test bank available, which any program that's using our testing will have access to this. And the test bank, basically, you can come in, you can search for a specific category, you can search for questions for a specific cert level. Item type, I believe we actually only have multiple choice, so shouldn't worry about that. And then if you want to throw on keywords as well. And essentially we can, if we do that, ventilation, and let's see if we have questions come up. Hopefully we do. And there we go. So we have 19 items matching our search, and we can go through and see what the correct answer is. And then if there was feedback provided, we said to include that. And then also if you find that anything in our test bank is incorrect or inappropriate, you can click on this option and it will let you provide a rationale, and then that actually goes to our testing team, so they will review it. So even if you're not doing one of our official review sessions, you can still have an impact on the questions that we provide, because you can, if there's an issue with it, you can bring that up to our attention, and we are definitely responsive and will make changes when there's an issue. The other piece I wanted to point out in the Learning Center is on the Get Involved. We have submit a test item. So Christy had mentioned submitting a test item. This is where you can go to do that. And basically there's just going to be terms of agreement, and we'll go ahead and say yes. And then you would basically put in the STEM, your options, any feedback, and all that kind of stuff, and submit it. And so again, once you submit those, we will receive them. And those can be used for the rewards points as well. So Christy had mentioned those rewards, and back on the dashboard, we can take a look at that. So there are ways to earn points by submitting the test items. You can also submit scenarios, and then you can also receive them by joining the review sessions. With these, when you earn points, you can redeem those for discounts on the testing products. So when you redeem the points, you'll choose either the EMT level or the paramedic level, and you can receive a discount of, depending on how many points you redeem, for that all the testing products of that cert level for a year. So if we come to the history, we can actually see how that pans out. So 50 points is 10% off, 100 points 25, 300 is 50% off, 600 600 points is 75, and if you get to 1,000 points to redeem, it would be free testing for that cert level for a year. So if you have rewards points and you want to redeem them, just reach out to us, 651-690-9241 is our line, or support@fisdap.net, and just mention that you want to redeem the points, and we can get that taken care of. And essentially we'll just ask which cert level do you want to redeem for and how many of your points do you want to redeem, and we will administer that discount. And that discount is actually built into the system itself. So you would then just go to the account page and go to place your order or do an upgrade order. And if there were a discount applied, you would see there'd be a red line striking through what the actual price is, and it would show you what the discount price is. So it's built right in. You don't need, it's not like a coupon or anything like that. Once we administer the discount, it'll be there for a year, and it's actually, the time schedule is built in. So after a year, it'll automatically turn off. So you've got that time to present whatever you need. The last piece I wanted to talk about is going back to the test schedule. And that is to say, Christy had also mentioned the pilot phase that our exams go through. And so we have a number of pilot exams that are available for you to administer to your students at no cost. And again, it's because the community-based element, we are wanting you guys to have your students take it so we can get the information of knowing how good the exam is and where we should set our PPV. So in that list of exams, when you're going to schedule it, we have the various normal exams, the unit exams, and then at the bottom are the pilot exams. So you can come here and see our pilot exams that are available, and otherwise everything would be exactly the same. You just schedule it. One thing you may notice is that for the pilot exams, the students just get one attempt for each exam, not multiple, because again, with the pilot, we're trying to get just their first impression. We don't necessarily want to have them take it again, because that could influence the numbers. But otherwise, you would just select your student and save, and you'll get your password for whatever day you selected. And then from the student side, they would essentially still go to the Learning Center, but instead of selecting one of the exams that they would see, there'd be an option for pilot testing at the bottom of the page. Or they can also go to pilottesting.fisdap.net, and that'll take them directly to the pilot test page. And again, they can select their exams here, which one they're going to take. Now, Chrissy mentioned the PHTLS and the TECC pilot exams we're doing. Those ones were not available to schedule in the test schedule, but they do still require a password. So if any of these pilot exams that are not in the test schedule to schedule, but still require a proctor password, you would just reach out to testing@fisdap.net to get the password for those. And again, we can definitely provide those for that. So with that, we will open up to questions. I believe we did get some. Or no, sorry, that may have been just the note about making it available for questions.
Ben, we did.
Oh, we did.
Yes,
Great.
I had to cut you off. So the first one is, why are students not allowed to go back and answer questions that they skipped?
So that is only true for one of the exams. It's the entrance exam for the EMT and the paramedic entrance exam. We do warn students in the message ahead of time that they will not be able to go back. And the reason on those two exams specifically, and Christy may be able to get more specific on it, but part of those questions are personality-based questions where, again, we're trying to get their first impression to the question. So we don't want them going back and second-guessing themselves and making changes to it. But yeah, again, that's...
Especially on those personality questions, people tend to want to go back and change it to what they think they should be answering versus like their first impression, honest opinion. But for all of our other exams, we have the option of where they can flag an item and come back to it and review it before they submit their attempt.
Awesome. And then the second question is, can the discount be used for both EMT and paramedic if a program teaches both?
So yes, but you would need to split your points up between the two. So when redeeming, it'd be for one of the two cert levels. So if you had, sorry, let me go back to the numbers here. Just a moment. I should have just gone to the dashboard here. So if you had, say, 600 points, you could redeem it for 75% off one of the 2 cert levels, or you could split it and do 300 and 300 for 50% off the 2 cert levels.
Great. Those were all the questions that we've received.
Great. Well, if others, if you think of any other questions or anything else, please feel free to reach out to us at support@fisdap.net. Or if you've got testing specific questions, you can always reach out to testing@fisdap.net as well. And then once more, our official line is 651-690-9241. And otherwise, we've got our upcoming webinars for March 4th. Kurt is going to lead it on Learning Center. And then we are going to do a deep dive on our products and packages as well on the 18th. And again, you can always sign up for those at go.fisdap.net/tips and tricks. And that's also where we keep all of our previously recorded ones. So if there's any you ever miss, please feel free to check those out. We do put them up on our YouTube page. So if you subscribe or ask for notifications on our YouTube channel, then you'll get notified right away in case you ever miss one when we upload it. So that's another option as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben and Christy, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. There will be a quick survey after the webinar, so please be sure to let us know your thoughts on today's webinar and if you have any suggestions for future topics. Also, if you have any additional questions that weren't addressed today, please feel free to submit them there. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Bye.